She laughed at his joke, touched his arm, and completely forgot I was standing right there. That's the image that keeps replaying in my head, her smile, his smirk, and the way I suddenly felt invisible. But before that moment, before everything fell apart, I really thought this trip would fix us. Welcome to Zitel Diaries, real stories, real drama, real pain. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Emma and I had been together for 2 years. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. She was funny, easygoing, and didn't take herself too seriously. I fell for her pretty fast. At first, everything was perfect. We were one of those couples who finish each other's sentences and text all day. But somewhere along the line, things started to change. It wasn't sudden. It was slow, like watching paint fade. She stopped laughing at my jokes. She'd go hours without replying to my messages. And whenever I brought up how distant she'd become, she'd roll her eyes and say, "You're just overthinking again, Jake." Still, I didn't want to give up. I thought maybe we just needed a break from the routine, something exciting to remind us why we fell in love. So when she mentioned she wanted to visit Miami again, I jumped at the idea. I booked everything: flights, hotel, dinners, even surprised her with a room that had an ocean view. She seemed happy when I told her. She kissed me, said, "You didn't have to do all that," but I could tell she liked the effort. For a while, I convinced myself things were going to be fine. The first day, we landed in the afternoon. The sun was hot, and the air smelled like salt and sunscreen. I remember holding her hand while we waited for the cab, thinking, this is it. This is our reset. But even in the cab, she was already scrolling on her phone. I glanced at her screen and saw she was texting someone named Ryan. When I asked who that was, she said, "Oh, he's just an old college friend. He lives here. Might meet him for drinks later." She said it casually, like it was no big deal. I didn't say anything, but my stomach turned a little. I didn't want to start an argument on day one, so I kept quiet. That's something I did a lot in our relationship, stayed quiet. When we got to the hotel, she changed into a sundress and wanted to take pictures for her Instagram. I became her photographer for the next 30 minutes while she posed on the balcony and near the pool. Every time I tried to take a selfie together, she'd say, "Just one of me first." She finally let me take one together, but later, she didn't even post it. Only the solo ones made it to her feed. That night, we went to dinner at a fancy rooftop place I'd reserved weeks before. The view was incredible: city lights, ocean breeze, everything perfect. I tried to start a real conversation. I told her how much I'd missed her lately, how I wanted us to be close again. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Jake, can we just have fun this weekend?" "No heavy talks, please," she said, sipping her drink. I nodded. I didn't want to ruin the mood. But as we ate, she kept checking her phone. Once, she even smiled at a text and turned the screen away from me. My chest tightened. I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to look like the insecure boyfriend. So I said nothing again. Back in the hotel, I tried to cuddle her, but she said she was tired. She turned her back to me, scrolled a bit more, then fell asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the waves outside. Something didn't feel right. The next morning, she woke up in a great mood. She said Ryan invited us to a beach party that evening. I hesitated, but she added, "Come on, you'll like him. He's super funny." I forced a smile and agreed. What else could I do? Say no and look controlling? We spent the day walking around, grabbing snacks, and taking pictures again. To anyone watching, we probably looked like a normal couple. But inside, I felt like a stranger next to her. At one point, she caught me staring and asked, "What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing. Just happy to be here." It was a lie. She smiled and leaned in to kiss me, but it was quick, distracted. The kind of kiss you give someone because you feel like you should, not because you want to. By evening, I was drained. I almost told her I didn't want to go to the party, but then she walked out of the bathroom wearing a light blue dress that hugged her perfectly, and my words disappeared. She looked stunning, the kind of stunning that makes you forget your worries, even for a moment. She asked, "Do I look okay?" I said, "You look beautiful." She smiled and said, "Good. Ryan's friends are kind of fancy." I laughed lightly, but inside, something sank deeper. I had no idea that this party, the one I didn't even want to attend, would be the beginning of the end. The party was already loud when we got there. Music, laughter, waves crashing just a few meters away, the kind of night that's supposed to feel fun and carefree. But for me, it felt off from the moment we stepped in. Emma led the way, holding my hand loosely like it was an afterthought. She seemed excited, glowing, even, and for a second, I was happy just seeing her smile again. But when I followed her eyes, I realized she wasn't smiling at me. Ryan was there. He was exactly what I pictured, tall, confident, easy grin. The kind of guy who just owns any room he walks into. He spotted Emma right away and waved like they were old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. "Emma," he shouted, walking over with open arms. She let go of my hand immediately and hugged him. Not a friendly, quick hug, a long one. The kind that says, "I missed you." I stood there, pretending not to care, but it felt like my chest got tighter with every passing second. "This is Jake," Emma said after what felt like forever. "My boyfriend." Ryan turned to me with a wide grin. The famous Jake. Emma talks about you sometimes." "Sometimes," I repeated under my breath, smiling politely. He laughed like he didn't hear the sting in my voice. "Glad you could make it, man. Grab a drink, make yourself at home." I nodded and tried to do exactly that, to blend in, act normal, not ruin the night. But it was hard when I could already tell how the rest of the evening would go. Ryan and Emma fell into conversation like I wasn't even there. They had inside jokes, memories, stories about people I didn't know. Every time she laughed, she leaned a little closer to him. Every time he spoke, she looked right into his eyes. It was like watching someone you love slowly drift away, not because of a fight, but because they just don't see you anymore. I stood by the cooler, sipping my drink, watching them from a few feet away. Some girl next to me noticed and whispered, "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." But I wasn't. I was humiliated. Then came the moment that sealed everything. They were sitting on the sand with a few others, talking and laughing. Someone joked about sunburn, and Emma said, "Ugh, I forgot to put sunscreen on my back earlier." Ryan grinned. "I got you, don't worry." Before I could even process it, she turned her back to him right there in front of everyone, and he started rubbing lotion across her shoulders. She giggled. "You missed a spot." People around them laughed. I just froze. My hands went cold. She didn't even look at me once. Not once. It wasn't just flirting, it was disrespect. Public, thoughtless, complete disrespect. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to realize she was doing anything wrong. I wanted to walk over and say something, but what was the point? Everyone was watching. If I caused a scene, I'd look like the jealous boyfriend who couldn't handle a harmless joke. So I stayed quiet. I smiled. I nodded when people talked to me. But inside, I was crumbling. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked down toward the water just to get away from the noise. The ocean breeze hit my face, but it didn't calm me. I just stood there, staring at the waves, wondering how the hell we got here. I remembered the first time Emma told me she loved me, how she said I made her feel safe. I remembered how she cried in my arms when her dog died. How she once said she couldn't imagine her life without me. And now? She couldn't even imagine I was standing 10 feet away, watching her laugh with another man. After a while, she came up behind me. "There you are," she said, smiling like nothing had happened. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Just needed some air." She linked her arm through mine. "Don't be weird. It's just Ryan. We've always been like that." I looked at her. "Like what?" She laughed. Playful. "You're not jealous, are you?" I didn't answer. She tilted her head, annoyed. "Oh my God, Jake. You're overreacting." "It's not that deep." Overreacting. That word cut deeper than anything else. So I said nothing. I just nodded. "You're right. I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. I wasn't angry either, just done. For the rest of the night, I watched her from a distance. She danced, drank, and laughed like she didn't have a boyfriend standing a few feet away. Every time I caught her eye, she'd smile like everything was normal. But it wasn't. Not anymore. When we finally left the party, she was tipsy and humming to herself. She held my arm as we walked back to the hotel, saying, "That was fun, right?" I didn't answer. Inside, she kicked off her shoes and fell on the bed, scrolling through her phone again. Probably texting him, I thought. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I felt small, invisible. That was the night I realized something had died between us. And by the time she drifted off to sleep, I already knew what I was going to do next. I just didn't know how quiet it would be. When we got back to the hotel that night, it was quiet except for the sound of waves outside. Emma tossed her purse on the table, yawned, and headed straight to the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the half-empty bottle of sunscreen sticking out of her beach bag. The smell of coconut filled the room, and suddenly I felt sick. She came out a few minutes later, wrapped in a towel. "Are you still mad?" she asked, like I was being dramatic for even thinking about it. "I'm not mad," I said. She sighed. "Jake, come on. Don't do this. It was just a joke." "A joke?" I repeated. "Yes. We were just playing around. You seriously think I'd flirt with him in front of you if it meant anything? You know me better than that." That's the thing, I didn't know her. Or at least I thought I did. I didn't respond. I just watched as she put on her pajamas and climbed into bed, still scrolling through her phone. "You're so quiet," she said. "Say something." "What do you want me to say?" I asked finally. "That you trust me." I looked at her for a long moment and then said, "Good night." She rolled her eyes and turned her back to me. "You're exhausted sometimes," she muttered before the light from her phone dimmed. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing with Ryan, his hand on her back, her pretending I wasn't there. It wasn't even jealousy, it was humiliation. And the longer I lay there, the clearer it became. She didn't respect me anymore. And once that's gone, there's nothing left to fix. Around 3 a.m., I got up quietly and sat by the window. The city was asleep, the ocean glowed faintly under the moon, and all I could think was, I don't belong here anymore. That's when I made the decision. I grabbed my phone, opened a flight app, and searched for one-way tickets back home. There was one at 7:15 a.m., expensive, but I didn't care. I booked it without hesitation. The moment the confirmation email came through, I felt a strange kind of calm. Like something inside me had finally stopped fighting. I knew I couldn't fix her, couldn't convince her to love me the same way I loved her. But I could choose myself. I could walk away quietly and keep what little dignity I had left. I started packing. Slowly, quietly, folding my clothes so the suitcase wouldn't make noise. I moved like a thief in my own relationship. Every zipper felt loud, every step careful. At one point, she stirred in her sleep and mumbled something, but she didn't wake up. I stood there watching her, the person I'd built so much around, and felt nothing. Not hate, not anger, just emptiness. Before I closed my bag, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to leave a note, something simple like, "I can't do this anymore." But what would be the point? She'd probably text back with sarcasm or blame me for overreacting again. So I left nothing. At 6 a.m., my alarm went off quietly in my pocket. I silenced it before it could buzz twice. I changed into jeans, grabbed my suitcase, and slipped my wallet into my jacket. The room was still dim, curtains fluttering from the soft breeze. I glanced around one last time. The key card sat on the table near her phone. I placed it neatly beside it, next to the sunscreen bottle. I don't know why, maybe it was my way of leaving behind the thing that started it all. Before walking out, I looked at her one last time. She was sleeping peacefully, phone still in her hand. She had no idea that by the time she woke up, I'd be gone. I stepped into the hallway, the carpet muffling my footsteps. The air was cool, the kind of morning chill that feels cleaner than it should. My heart wasn't racing. I thought it would be, but I felt strangely light. The elevator ride down was silent except for the soft hum of the machinery. When the doors opened, the lobby was mostly empty. Just a night clerk yawning behind the counter and a janitor mopping near the entrance. I didn't check out. I just nodded at them and walked straight through the glass doors. Outside, the sky was pale blue, the kind of color that only shows up before sunrise. A cab waited near the curb. I waved it down, loaded my suitcase, and gave the driver my destination. He looked at me through the rearview mirror. Early flight? Yeah, I said softly. Something like that. As we drove away, I saw the hotel shrinking in the mirror. The balcony, the pool, the room where I'd stayed up all night, fading smaller and smaller until it was just another building against the sky. It didn't even feel real. Halfway to the airport, my phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again, her name flashing across the screen. I put it face down and turned it off. When we reached the terminal, I paid the driver and stepped out. The air smelled like coffee and jet fuel, oddly comforting. Inside, everything felt normal. Families, business travelers, sleepy tourists. No one knew I'd just ended a relationship without saying a single word. I sat by the gate, watching planes take off one by one. I felt sad, yes, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't heartbreak, it was release. I realized then that love shouldn't make you feel small. It shouldn't make you beg for respect. And once someone makes you feel invisible, the best thing you can do is disappear for real. The airport was quiet early in the morning. Just a few people scattered around the terminal, a couple whispering near the check-in counter, a man asleep on his suitcase, an old woman sipping coffee. Everything felt strangely peaceful. I hadn't felt peace in months. I checked in without saying much. The woman at the counter smiled and asked if I was traveling alone. I nodded. Any bags to check? Just this one, I said. All right, Mr. Collins. Have a safe flight. I thanked her, walked toward security, and didn't look back. As I stood in line, I kept checking my phone, half expecting to see a message from Emma, but there was nothing. Maybe she was still asleep. Maybe she hadn't noticed yet. Maybe she didn't care. I went through security, found my gate, and sat by the window. The sun was starting to rise, soft orange light spilling across the runway. It looked like a new beginning, even though I didn't know where my life was headed next. Around 7 a.m., as boarding started, my phone lit up. Emma's speech balloon. Where are you? Emma's speech balloon. Jake, this isn't funny. Emma's speech balloon. Did you seriously leave? Emma's speech balloon. You're overreacting. I stared at the screen for a long time. Each message made my chest feel tighter, but I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I knew any response would drag me back into the same circle of blame and excuses. The final text came in just as I was about to turn off my phone. Emma's speech balloon. If you walk away now, don't bother coming back. I looked at it for a second, then switched the phone off. When I boarded the plane, a flight attendant greeted me with a polite smile. I smiled back, though it felt weak. I found my seat near the window, put my bag under the chair, and stared outside. The city looked calm, distant. Somewhere out there, Emma was probably realizing I was really gone. The seat beside me stayed empty until the very last minute, when a middle-aged man sat down and nodded. Morning, he said. Morning. Long day ahead? Just leaving something behind, I said quietly. He smiled. Sometimes that's the best thing you can do. We didn't speak again after that. When the plane started moving, my heart started racing. The engines roared, the ground trembled, and I felt every ounce of weight, not just from my body, but from everything I'd been carrying for months. As the plane lifted, Miami grew smaller below us, the ocean, the buildings, the roads we'd driven. The place I thought would bring us closer was now just another city I couldn't wait to forget. I pressed my forehead against the window and closed my eyes. For a moment, I saw flashes, Emma laughing on the beach, her hand on Ryan's arm, the way she looked right through me. Then I saw her asleep in that hotel bed, completely unaware that I was already halfway gone. I let out a shaky breath and whispered to myself, it's over. Halfway through the flight, the man next to me ordered coffee and asked if I wanted one too. I said yes. It was the first thing I'd had all day. I took a sip, and for the first time in a long time, it tasted like peace, bitter, but real. I thought about all the moments I'd ignored the red flags. The way she stopped saying, I love you first. The way she'd pull away when I reached for her hand. The endless phone scrolling, the half-hearted kisses, the excuses. I'd convinced myself things would get better. That love meant holding on no matter what. But love shouldn't make you beg for crumbs of attention. It shouldn't make you feel invisible in a room full of people. As the clouds drifted by, I thought about the last thing she said to me, "You're exhausting sometimes." Maybe I was, but only because I kept trying to fix something she'd already stopped caring about. When the plane finally landed, I didn't rush to leave. I waited until most people had gotten up. I looked out the window one more time and smiled faintly. It wasn't joy, it was acceptance. At baggage claim, I turned my phone back on. The screen lit up with missed calls and messages. Dozens of them. "Where are you? Jake, please answer. Can we just talk? Are you seriously ghosting me?" Then one final one. "Emma, if this is what you want, fine. Don't expect me to be here when you change your mind." I read it once, deleted the thread, and blocked her number. Not out of anger, but because I didn't want to keep reopening wounds that would never heal. Outside the airport, I called a cab. The driver asked, "Home?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Home." As we drove away, I rolled the window down. The wind hit my face, cold and clean. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. For a moment, I thought about texting her, just one last goodbye. But then I realized I already had. My silence was the goodbye. Some people expect closure through words, long talks, and tears. But I've learned that sometimes, the quiet walk away says everything. I never saw Emma again. A mutual friend later told me she started dating Ryan a few weeks after that trip. I didn't even feel surprised. If anything, it confirmed that I'd made the right choice. Now, when I think about her, it's not with anger, it's with clarity. She taught me something I'll never forget. When someone makes you feel unseen, don't fight to be noticed. Leave. Because the peace that follows, the quiet, the calm, the freedom, is louder than any apology they could ever give. Don't miss out. New videos